Wayne Bavin.
BBC Radio Suffolk.
Next this morning, though, Changing Faces is the UK's leading charity for anyone with a disfigurement or a visible difference. They've found that in recent years there has been an unfortunate rise in hostile behaviour towards those with a visible difference. They've received abuse when they go out in public, but sometimes even just being stared at is enough to upset people. The charity have launched a campaign called Stop the Stare. They want to highlight what it feels like to be consciously or unconsciously stared at, because sometimes there's no harm meant, is it, when people stare at other people with disfigurements? There's no harm meant, but it's how the other person feels that's important, isn't it? We're joined this morning by one of the campaigners from Changing Faces, who lives here locally in Suffolk. It's Laura Matthias. Hello, Laura.
Hello.
First of all, tell us why you became involved with the charity.
So I have alopecia. I know I've chatted with you before about the fact that after the Oscars incident and in recent years, I've decided to embrace my alopecia a bit more and go out bald. And so when I realised that it had taken me nearly 17 years of hiding behind my wig and feeling terrified to be looked at as a bald woman, I thought there's got to be charities out there doing something to support people like me, and I found Changing Faces and was determined to get involved with them. So, yeah, I'm really happy to be a campaigner with them now.
You've had alopecia since you were 13, haven't you?
Yes, exactly. You know, it's a real key time in my, development, I guess, of who I am. And it was really horrible. And I actually stopped going to school for about 6 months when I first started losing my hair at that age, because I was just absolutely terrified of the comments of bullying. And you're right, sometimes even just the staring, because it can be just so hostile. And I still get that to this day, and I'm noticing it more now while I am going out and about without my wig.
But it doesn't bother you as much now. You feel a lot more comfortable. But at the time, it must have been deeply upsetting to have people staring at you.
Yeah, I think this Stop the Stare campaign, it's all about just being more mindful of the impact that your stare has on someone like me with a visible difference. And something that we can all do is just remove that element of surprise when we see difference. And we can do that by following lots more different people on our social media feeds, thinking about what kind of programs we're engaging with. So it's not a shock when you see me as a happy, healthy, bald woman out and about in Suffolk.
Does it work the other way? Because there are people who stare, and then there are some people who notice somebody's visibly different, and they try so hard not to stare, it can be a bit embarrassing too, can't it?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, because I know with children in particular, there's nothing worse than the hushed voice of a mum saying, "Oh, stop it, don't stare at that person." And sometimes I think, you know what, I'd rather they ask the question. But that's children. Adults know the difference between looking and staring, and there is a massive difference, and it's about respect. And I do think that emotional labour to kind of be the bigger person, and for me to just kind of keep building my confidence in spite of people staring at me, isn't fair. Why should I every day have to think about it before I leave my house, whether I have to hide my hair loss or not? If people were just a bit more open-minded and diversified their social media feeds and did their bit to know that we need to engage and embrace difference, then hopefully I could just go out and about and exist as I am.
This is one of those topics that I think we're way behind the times with when it comes to disfigurements. And somebody I find really inspirational is Katie Piper.
Oh, yes. Love Katie. Yeah, she's amazing.
She's a real true ambassador, isn't she, for people who are visibly different, and she's got on with her life, and she's incredibly successful, and like yourself, continues to campaign. You yourself are doing your bit to embrace your differences. You're a little bit of a media person now yourself, Laura, aren't you?
Well, I'm talking to you here today, but yeah, no. In addition to that, because it is Face Equality Week, I had my photo taken as well. So as part of that, proactive thing we can all be doing to stop the stare, in the sense of engaging more with difference and celebrating difference. So it's not a surprise when we see someone out and about with a visible difference. I actually had my big bald head in an amazing, massive framed photo auctioned off for charity this week for Changing Faces. And so it's things like that. I'm putting myself forward for real life castings because I want to be seen as a happy, healthy, bald person in everyday media. We do have a long way to go. And sometimes I think it feels like as consumers, we don't have that control because, we're not in charge of creating the adverts and, what goes on TV. But we do have a choice in what we're consuming with and how we respond to people. So, yeah, I think look at me, ask me questions if you like, but do not stare at me because that is a hostile act and you could make or break my day.
Wise words. What advice would you have for people who are visibly different, who are a little bit self-conscious, who get stared at and perhaps don't like to go out because of that? How can they get that confidence?
I don't think it's a linear journey when working on the confidence. Like I said, I still have days where I just can't face not wearing my wig because I know I'll be stared at. But there are amazing charities like Changing Faces that have lots of resources and wellbeing support, skin camouflage advice, lots of things to support the person with the visible difference to build up resilience effectively to live their life well. But again, this campaign is all about why should that emotional labour be on the person who just wants to live their life and just happens to have a visible difference. It's about let's make a change in society to really celebrate difference and just get over it and just stop staring.
You speak such sense, Laura. It's always nice to chat to you.
Thank you.
Changing Faces campaigner Laura Matthias. Is there a website for Changing Faces, Laura?
Yes, of course, changingfaces.org.uk, and all the resources are on there. And there's a great video that they've done with my fellow campaigner, Athol, and it's very much walking a day in his shoes and how he feels when walking down the street when people are just staring at him. So, yeah, Please do share that.
Check out the website. Also, check out the Instagram as well. You have a very active Instagram, Laura, don't you?
Oh, yes, Relight Alopecia. You can follow me, of course, if you want to know more about alopecia and living with a visible difference.
Okay, always nice to chat. Thank you, Laura Matthias. It's 16 minutes to 11. If that's something that affects you, do you have a visible difference? Does someone you know, a friend, a work colleague, do they have a disfigurement? How are you towards them? Do they get stared at? Do you get stared at? Your stories, 0800 141 121. Lovely to chat to Laura. Such wise words she always has for us. BBC Radio Suffolk, Thursday morning, Alanis Morissette and Ironic.